You're in the rant hole where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by becoming one of those. This one comes from Scott Goldsberry, who says, I'd like to hear a rant about Touhou's character design. You could almost say they come from a template. Skirt, blouse, 2 primary colors, some form of headdress equals Touhou character. Despite this, they all manage to feel distinct and instantly recognizable somehow. I wonder if maybe you have some insight into what Zune is tapping into here. To which Mr. Bones corrected, some form of head diaper. Well, I don't know if I'd say that all of the designs are distinct and instantly recognizable necessarily, because sometimes I look at a big picture of Touhou's and they all bleed into each other. So there's some Touhou games that I'm very familiar with, particularly some of the earlier ones, Embodiment of Scarlet Devil, Imperishable Night, you know, that kind of era. And, you know, with the later games, I don't know as many of the characters, so, like, it can sometimes just feel like there's just an endless number of them that all are kind of the same, but kind of different. But I think what makes it work is that, first of all, the style of all of them, overall, is very distinct. This idea of, like, this wavy hair, very, flowy, flowery kind of dress and big hat. Nothing else quite looks like it or feels like it, and except for stuff that's copied it. And so I think that on a baseline, just that aesthetic is a huge part of what makes it work. But then it's the fact that he's basically dived into every possible permutation of that aesthetic. Every body type, every hair color, every tit size, every combination thereof, every color palette, every hat choice. It's like he takes that template and then just does it in every conceivable way. And depending on who you are, one of those is probably going to work for you. As long as the overall art style works for you, if any character from the series appeals to you in other ways, like it appeals to your general sensibilities, you're going to love that character. And so I don't think that there's a ton of Touhou fans who love all the character designs, or who could even name, like, more than half of the Touhou characters. Like, I think that most Touhou fans have a handful of ones who they really care about, who really, like, fit their aesthetic sensibilities, who they champion. So, like, for me, Remelius Scarlet, Vlander Scarlet, Rumia, Cyrano, you know, all those are from the same game, but, like, those are all the ones I really love. Like, yeah, Patchouli and Sayaka and is her name Sayaka, or did I get that wrong? Sakuya? Patchouli and Sakuya and fucking Maiden are all great, but they don't appeal to me as much, and so I don't necessarily think about them as much. I mean, I think Patchouli is great because she has all the purple, and I love purple, but, like, you know, it's just a matter of, like, I love some designs, and I, like, am obsessed with them, and I'll collect all this artwork and shit, and then other designs I'm just like, yeah, it's good. It's a good Touhou design. So, like, I think that's really the main thrust of it, is that there is a Touhou for everybody. Everybody has 1 or 2 or 5 Touhous that they can sink their teeth into and become obsessed with. And then the fact that these designs are drawn in such a, like, kind of simplistic, or just, you know, by a kind of amateurish way, but they, like, everything about Touhou has this allure that it's very distinct but not that deep. That, like, the gameplay itself, you know, there's a lot of skill to it and, like, mastering it, and there's a depth in that sense, but there's not, like, a crazy depth of mechanics. It's just that the mechanics are, you know, done in this very specific way that is interesting, and the bullet patterns are done in these specific, interesting ways, and the character designs are all done in this specific, interesting way. And so, you know, people take that and then they expand on it because they see that it's so simplified, and they go, I want to add more. So they take those character designs and they, you know, expand on them, they stylize them differently, they, you know, put them in all these different scenarios, they change them in little ways, and even with the personalities of the characters. Again, very simple in the games, very little information given about them, but people can extrapolate from that and create whole narratives with these characters just based on what they think they'd be like on the foundations that the game has given you, you know? So, I don't even know if the main strength of Touhou is that the character design is so good. It is very good, but it's that it's so malleable, that these designs can be taken by artists and run with, and that each of them has such a, like, specific aesthetic idea behind them. You know, like, with Remelia, you will very often find people drawing her on a backdrop of all red, of just like different shades of red, but like the whole picture is red. That was how I found out about Touhou, because I would be on Gelboru just looking at pictures of like vampire lollies and shit, and I would come across all these utterly red pictures, and I was a huge red fan at the time. So, like, I kept seeing these cool-ass pictures of this character, and I was like, who the fuck is this? She's perfect, you know? And that's how I found out about Remelia. Well, it's because of her particular aesthetic, that she's this vampire lolly, that she's wearing all pink with purple hair, which looks really good on that red background, like... she's got the red eyes, you know, that will match it. It's just like, you have this sense when you look at her of like how you should represent her, and then other people see that and they either copy it or they do their own thing with it, and it's just like, you know, each character just has that just right amount of thought put into them that they are endlessly expandable on. It's like if somebody was just really good at doing character bios. That's basically Zune. He's incredible at just coming up with baseline template characters that you can run with forever.